I was sitting in the restaurant for 43 minutes, watching other couples celebrate their anniversaries, when I realized Emily wasn't coming. The waiter had asked 3 times if I wanted to order, each time with that look of pity that made my jaw clench. I'd made reservations at Chez Laurent 2 months ago. Our 5-year anniversary deserved something special. The same restaurant where I'd proposed 3 years earlier, where she'd said yes with tears in her eyes and promises on her lips. My name is Andrew, 31 years old, senior project manager at a tech consulting firm. I'd built my career on reading people, on understanding what they weren't saying, on seeing patterns others missed. But sitting there in my best suit, checking my phone for the 5th time, I realized I'd been blind to the most important pattern of all. The text came at 8:47 p.m., "Sorry, work emergency. Can we reschedule?" No explanation, no apology that felt real, no acknowledgement that this was supposed to be our day. Just 11 words that felt like a dismissal. I stared at the message for a full minute, then typed back, "Of course. Hope everything's okay." But I didn't send it immediately. Something made me wait, made me think. I paid for the wine I'd ordered while waiting and drove home in silence. The house felt different when I walked in, too quiet, too staged. Emily's car wasn't in the driveway, but her phone charger was still plugged in by the kitchen counter. The same charger that had been syncing to my laptop for months, backing up photos automatically. A feature she'd forgotten about, something I'd set up after she'd lost pictures from her old phone. I wasn't planning to look. I just wanted to work, to lose myself in spreadsheets and project timelines. But when I opened my laptop, the sync notification was there. New photos. From today. From tonight. I stared at that notification for 10 minutes, feeling something cold settle in my chest. I'd trusted Emily completely for 5 years. I'd never checked her phone, never questioned her late nights at the marketing agency, never doubted her word. But something about tonight, about the casual dismissal of our anniversary, made me click that notification. The first photo was innocent enough, Emily at what looked like a bar, smiling with colleagues. The timestamp showed 6:30 p.m. 30 minutes before she was supposed to meet me. I scrolled through more photos, my breathing getting shallower with each one. Emily laughing with a man I didn't recognize. Emily's hand on his arm. Emily's lips on his cheek. Emily's engagement ring nowhere to be seen. But it was the last photo that made me stand up from my chair. Emily and this man, kissing in what looked like a hotel room. The timestamp, 8:52 p.m. 5 minutes after she'd texted me about a work emergency. The metadata showed the location, the Marriott downtown. 3 blocks from where I'd been sitting alone. I closed the laptop and walked to the kitchen. Poured myself a scotch. Drank it slowly. Poured another. Not because I needed the alcohol, but because I needed time to think. To process. To decide what kind of man I was going to be in this moment. I'd been raised by a father who taught me that real men don't make scenes. They don't act on emotion. They think, they plan, they execute. Control your first instinct, he used to say. It's usually wrong. So I didn't call Emily. I didn't drive to the hotel. I didn't smash anything or cry or rage. I sat in my kitchen and I thought. 3 hours later, I had a plan. Emily came home at 11:30 p.m., slipping in quietly like she was trying not to wake me. I was reading in the living room, laptop closed, face calm. She looked surprised to see me up. "Hey," she said, avoiding eye contact. "How was your night?" "Quiet," I said. "Worked on some project reports." "How was the emergency?" She hesitated for just a moment. "Oh, you know. Client crisis. Had to stay late with the team." I nodded. "That's too bad." I was looking forward to tonight. Me too, she said, but her voice was flat. Rain check. Sure, I said. Rain check. She went upstairs to shower. I opened my laptop and saved every photo to a secure folder. Then I did something I'd never done before, I started documenting. Screenshots of her text messages. Copies of her location data. Records of her recent behavior changes. Not because I was planning to destroy her, but because I was planning to protect myself. The next morning, Emily was different. Distant. She kept checking her phone, smiling at messages she didn't share. She left for work early, kissing my cheek like we were roommates instead of engaged partners. I watched her drive away, then made 3 phone calls. First, to my lawyer. Marcus had handled my business contracts for years, but I'd never needed him for personal matters. I need to understand my options, I told him. Hypothetically speaking. Second, to my financial advisor. I want to review all my accounts. Joint and individual. I need to understand what's protected and what's not. Third, to my brother Jake. I need you to do me a favor. Can you take some time off next week? I might need backup. Jake didn't ask questions. Military guys understand that sometimes you need support without explanations. Whatever you need, he said. I spent the next week being the perfect fiancé. I cooked Emily's favorite meals. I brought her flowers. I asked about her work, her friends, her stress levels. I listened to her complaints about difficult clients and demanding deadlines. I was attentive, caring, supportive. And I documented everything. Every late night at the office. Every weekend work session. Every girls' night that ran until 2 a.m. I wasn't following her or hiring investigators. I was just paying attention to the patterns I'd been ignoring for months. The phone calls that ended when I entered the room. The new clothes she wore to work but never at home. The sudden interest in fitness and appearance. The way she'd started talking about needing space to grow as a person. On Thursday, Emily announced she was going to a marketing conference in Seattle over the weekend. Company-sponsored, great networking opportunity, sorry for the short notice. She was excited in a way I hadn't seen in months. She packed carefully, choosing outfits like she was preparing for something important. I'll miss you, she said, kissing me goodbye at the door. I'll miss you too, I said. And I meant it. I was already missing the woman I'd thought she was. After she left, I opened my laptop and waited. The photos started syncing within hours. Emily at the airport, but not the terminal for Seattle flights. Emily in a car with the same man from the anniversary photos. Emily checking into a hotel in Portland, not Seattle. Emily at dinner, holding hands across the table with someone who wasn't me. I called Marcus. It's not hypothetical anymore, I said. I'll draft the papers, he replied. You sure about this? I'm sure. That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I took care of myself. I went to the gym and worked out until my muscles burned. I called my father and told him the truth. I reorganized my apartment, removing pictures of Emily and me, boxing up her things carefully. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Emily came home Sunday night glowing. She talked about the conference, the speakers, the networking opportunities. She showed me brochures and business cards. She was a good liar, I realized. She'd probably been practicing for months. I'm thinking about applying for a position in Portland, she said casually. The agency has an opening. It would be a big career move. That's great, I said. You should follow your dreams. She looked surprised by my support. You'd be okay with long distance. I think we should talk about what we both want, I said. Maybe it's time to be honest about where we're heading. Something in my tone made her pause. What do you mean? I mean, maybe we're not the same people we were 5 years ago. Maybe we want different things now. She nodded slowly. Maybe we do. I think you should take the Portland job, I said. I think it's exactly what you need. The next morning, I woke up early and made coffee for both of us. Emily was getting ready for work, moving around the kitchen with purpose. She seemed relieved, like a weight had been lifted. Andrew, she said, about what we talked about last night. Yeah. I think you're right. About us growing apart. About wanting different things. I handed her the coffee mug. I think so too. So what do we do? I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the envelope Marcus had prepared. I think we handle this like adults. Emily's face went pale when she saw the divorce papers. Andrew, what is this? It's what we both want, I said calmly. You want to start fresh in Portland. I want to be with someone who chooses me first. But we're engaged. We have a life together. No, I said. We had a life together. Now we have a situation to resolve. She started to cry. This is so sudden. Can't we try counseling? Emily, I said, and my voice was steady as stone. I know about Portland. I know about the hotel. I know about everything. The crying stopped. The color drained from her face completely. How? Your phone syncs to my laptop. Has for months. I saw the photos. She sat down heavily in the kitchen chair. Andrew, I can explain. You don't need to explain anything. You made your choice. I'm making mine. It's not what you think. David and I. We're just friends. We work together. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. These are from last weekend. These are from our anniversary. You were 3 blocks away, Emily. 3 blocks from where I was sitting alone, waiting for you. She looked at the photos and something crumbled in her expression. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. And now we deal with it. What do you want from me? I want you to sign the papers. I want you to take the job in Portland. I want you to be happy with David. And I want you to leave me alone. Emily stared at the divorce papers for a long time. What about our friends? Our families? What will we tell them? We'll tell them the truth. That we grew apart. That we want different things. That we're ending this before it gets ugly. The house is in my name. My down payment, my mortgage. You can take your things. My car is in your name. Keep it. The ring. I looked at her left hand. She'd put the engagement ring back on that morning, probably out of habit. Keep it or sell it. I don't care. She twisted the ring around her finger. I loved you, Andrew. I still love you. No, I said. You love the idea of being loved. You love having someone safe to fall back on. But you don't love me enough to choose me. And that's okay. We both deserve better. She signed the papers that morning. No argument, no negotiation, no drama. Just her signature on the dotted line, making it official. I watched her pack her things over the next few days, methodical and quiet. She didn't try to explain further. She didn't apologize. She just packed and left. The last thing she said to me was, I hope you find someone who makes you happy. I hope you find someone who makes you want to be faithful, I replied. After she left, I sat in my empty house and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not sadness, not anger, not loss. Just pure, clean relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. I called my brother. "It's done," I said. "How do you feel?" "Free." "Good. That's how you should feel." I called my father. "I handled it," I said. "I'm proud of you, son. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right. It just feels necessary. That's what makes it right." 3 weeks later, I got a call from Marcus. "She's contesting the divorce," he said. "Claims you coerced her into signing." I laughed. Actually laughed. "On what grounds?" "Emotional distress. Says you manipulated her by showing her the photos." "The photos of her cheating on me?" "Apparently so. She's hired Catherine Mills." Catherine Mills was the most aggressive divorce attorney in the city. She specialized in taking cheating spouses and making them look like victims. This was going to get expensive. "What do you recommend?" I asked. "We fight it. We have documentation. We have evidence. We have the truth. Let's do it." The next 6 months were a masterclass in legal strategy. Emily's attorney painted her as a confused young woman who made mistakes under pressure. They claimed our relationship had been emotionally abusive, that I had controlled her finances and isolated her from friends. They demanded half of everything: the house, my retirement accounts, my business investments. But I had something they didn't expect. Documentation. Not just the photos, but months of financial records showing Emily's spending patterns. Records of her lies about work trips. Evidence of her relationship with David dating back 8 months. Testimony from friends who'd seen them together. The most damaging evidence came from David himself. Under deposition, he admitted the affair had been going on since December. He admitted they'd been planning Emily's move to Portland together. He admitted he'd been paying for hotel rooms and trips that Emily had claimed were work-related. When Emily's attorney saw the evidence, she advised her client to settle. "You're not going to win this," she said. "Cut your losses." Emily called me directly. "Andrew, please. Can we work something out?" "We already worked something out," I said. "You signed papers agreeing to a clean break. I'm not changing the terms now. I'll lose everything. You already lost everything. You just didn't realize it yet." The final hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in March. I wore my best suit, the same one I'd worn to our anniversary dinner. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Marcus, calm and prepared. Emily sat across the room with her attorney, looking smaller than I remembered. The judge was a woman in her 60s with tired eyes and no patience for nonsense. She'd read all the briefs, reviewed all the evidence, and listened to all the testimony. "Mrs. Henderson," she said, "you signed a separation agreement 3 weeks after being confronted with evidence of your extramarital affair. You now claim you were coerced into signing. Can you explain how showing someone photographic evidence of their own actions constitutes coercion?" Emily's attorney stood up. "Your Honor, my client was in emotional distress. She wasn't thinking clearly." "Emotional distress caused by her own actions," the judge replied. "I've reviewed the evidence." The plaintiff documented his wife's deception over a period of 8 months. The defendant engaged in a sustained extramarital relationship while planning to leave her marriage. The separation agreement is reasonable and fair. Motion to set aside denied. It was over. 5 years of marriage, 8 months of lies, 6 months of legal fighting, and it was over. Emily left the courthouse without looking at me. Her attorney packed up her files without comment. I shook hands with Marcus and walked out into the spring sunshine. That afternoon, I cleaned out the last of Emily's things from the house. Found her old jewelry box, some books she'd forgotten, a sweater stuck behind the dresser. I packed it all carefully and had it delivered to her apartment in Portland. No note, no message, just her belongings returned with the same care I'd given our relationship. 6 months later, I was promoted to partner at my firm. The client I'd been working with during the divorce proceedings had been impressed with my focus and professionalism during what they knew was a difficult personal time. "You handled pressure with grace," the CEO told me. "That's the kind of character we want in leadership." I bought a new house. Nothing huge or flashy, but something that was entirely mine. I furnished it slowly, choosing each piece carefully. I got a dog, a German shepherd named Max, who was loyal and straightforward and never lied about where he'd been. I started dating again, but differently. I paid attention to actions instead of words. I watched for consistency. I looked for character. I didn't rush into anything, didn't ignore red flags, didn't make excuses for behavior that didn't align with values. A year after the divorce, I met Sarah at a coffee shop. She was reading a book on project management, making notes in the margins. She was direct, intelligent, and refreshingly honest about what she wanted. When I asked her out, she said yes. When I asked her to be exclusive, she said yes. When I asked her to move in with me, she said yes, but she wanted to keep her own apartment for 6 months to make sure we were compatible. "I want to be sure," she said. "I don't want to make promises I can't keep." "I appreciate that," I said. "I want to be sure too. We've been together for 2 years now. She's never lied to me about where she's going or who she's with. She's never made me feel like I'm competing for her attention. She chooses me every day, not because she has to, but because she wants to." Emily sent me a Christmas card last year. Just a generic card with her name signed at the bottom. No message, no explanation, no attempt to reopen communication. I threw it away without a second thought. I heard through mutual friends that she and David broke up after 6 months in Portland. Apparently, he wasn't ready for the commitment she was expecting. She's single now, working at a smaller agency, living in a studio apartment. I don't feel sorry for her. I don't feel angry at her. I don't feel anything about her at all, and that's exactly how it should be. Sometimes I think about that night at the restaurant, sitting alone on our anniversary, waiting for someone who was never going to show up. I think about the man I was then, trusting, naive, willing to make excuses for behavior that should have been unacceptable. I'm not that man anymore. I'm not bitter about what happened. I'm grateful. Emily taught me something valuable about character, about the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves being loved by you. She taught me to pay attention to patterns, to trust my instincts, to value consistency over promises. Most importantly, she taught me that real strength isn't about fighting for someone who doesn't want to be there. Real strength is about having the courage to walk away when you deserve better, even when it's difficult, even when it's lonely, even when everyone expects you to fight for something that's already over. I kept one photo from our relationship. Not because I'm sentimental, but because I never want to forget the lesson. It's a picture from our 2nd anniversary, both of us smiling at the camera. I look at it sometimes and remember the man who believed those smiles were real, who thought loyalty was automatic, who assumed that love meant the same thing to everyone. That man learned the hard way that actions speak louder than words, that character matters more than chemistry, and that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to stop accepting less than you deserve. Today, I'm sitting in my office, looking out at the city, thinking about the choices that led me here. I'm successful, respected, and genuinely happy. I sleep well at night because I know who I am and what I stand for. I don't have to wonder where my partner is or what she's doing because I chose someone whose actions match her words. The phone syncing taught me something important about modern relationships. Transparency isn't just about trust, it's about accountability. When someone has nothing to hide, they don't act like they're hiding something. When someone is living with integrity, their public and private selves align. Emily thought she was smart, keeping her affair hidden while maintaining the facade of our relationship. She thought she could have both, the security of our engagement and the excitement of her new romance. She thought I wouldn't notice the pattern of lies, the inconsistencies, the gradual withdrawal of affection and attention. She was wrong. I learned that day that being a good man doesn't mean being a doormat. Being loving doesn't mean being blind. Being committed doesn't mean accepting betrayal. Real masculinity isn't about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself, your reactions, your choices, your standards. The divorce was finalized 2 years ago, but the real victory happened the night I decided to stop accepting behavior that didn't match my values. The night I chose to document the truth instead of making excuses for lies. The night I decided that my dignity was worth more than a relationship built on deception. I'm not the same man who sat alone in that restaurant, making excuses for being abandoned on his anniversary. I'm the man who learned to recognize his worth, to enforce his boundaries, and to walk away from anything that diminishes his character. And that man sleeps well at night, knowing he made the right choice.